Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Roth Cornet.
I'm Dan Murrell.
And we are here to talk about Midsummer. Oh, wow.
It's like NPR.
Yeah.
I like it. This is a delicious dish.
Delicious dish. We're going to talk about Midsummer Sweaty Balls. This is the follow-up from Ari Aster after
Yes.
Hereditary, which was our favorite movie of that year.
It was.
We had a shared favorite movie that year.
We did. We both had the same favorite movie last year. Largely why we're doing this review now.
Yes.
We could be doing Annabelle, which we may later. Yesterday also opens this week. Midsummer opens next week. But we were both really excited to do this movie.
Yes. And we saw it last night in the middle of the denim glitterati of Hollywood.
Yes.
And have our review now. Now, considering how highly esteemed that film was for you, did you go in here with expectations?
No, I mean, it's Hereditary is a movie that I love so much that it wouldn't be fair to this movie or any movie for me to walk in saying like, well, you better do it again, because that's just not fair. So, the expectation certainly that I hoped that I would come out of it excited and with a similar feeling, but I can't carry in the baggage from the previous movie, the baggage being that was my favorite movie of last year, to this one and be like, well, you better do it again, because that's a very high bar to clear.
Yes.
So I try to set aside any expectation as far as like, I think it'll be this good. You have your hopes, but it's hard to, on a follow-up like that, to be like, you almost set the filmmaker up for an impossible scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to go in as blank as you can. I will confess and own to my Wicker Man baggage. And I had a little bit of, well, I know this story, you know? And what we saw in Hereditary, I think, primed me for how he would play with those tropes. And I was very pleasantly surprised that, once again, his movies really aren't about the tricks of the trade of a horror movie. I sort of think it does them a disservice to market them as horror movies. These are incredibly nuanced interpersonal dramas, whether it's a family drama or, in this case, a relationship drama and a family drama. He certainly has themes that he likes and returns to in this film. But I loved it. That said, I am very aware that this is going to be one of those films that is incredibly, incredibly divisive.
Yes, and if you're not familiar with Midsommar, it's Ari Aster, the director of Hereditary. It's his follow-up. It takes place in Sweden.
Yes.
It is at a gathering, a summer gathering. I don't want to give away too much, but a summer gathering, a festival of sorts, and all kinds of, as you can see there, crazy stuff happens. The movie, it doesn't have twists and turns in the sense of like, it's a thrill a minute. It just sort of unfolds. So that's all you really need to know going in. But yeah, it's. I've been processing it since we saw it, and I continue to. There's a few things that I came to, which is that it cements Ari Aster as a director that I will go see what he does no matter what he does next. It's him and Yorgos Lanthimos, and it's a short list of directors that are just like, if they make a movie, I will be there no matter what. Lynn Ramsey's another one. So I think that there are so many moving pieces to this movie, and a lot of them I thought were incredible. Some of them I am still trying to figure out, and then some of them I think that I have to look at the whole and be like, okay, do those pieces add up to me to a full and complete picture? And it's something that I'm still trying to figure out. That's the great thing about movies. I agree with you, though, that they're releasing this wide. Much like they did with Hereditary. Hereditary famously had like a D or a D plus cinema score from audiences because it was not what it was sold to be. This movie makes Hereditary look mainstream. This movie is, I think, so much more challenging to the audience on a tempo and a pace level, on an aesthetic level, in the sense of like there are shocking things, shocking visuals that if you don't necessarily aren't prepared for a lot of this stuff going in, I think are challenging. I will be watching yet again to see what happens with an audience that may be walking into something that they're not quite prepared for, and to see their reaction, because
I can predict it for us.
it is I think a more challenging film than Hereditary was, in the sense of mechanics, structure, plot, content, everything else.
So I really, really love this movie. And I think, again, pointing to Hereditary and the things that he was exploring there, for me, he's clearly interested in things like mental illness and how that plays out, and where that line is, because there's a particular trope, with women especially, where there can be a default response around emotion that equates to you're crazy. And then sometimes people do have mental illness, and he rides that line. That's one thing. The second thing is certainly family dynamics, what you owe your family, what you inherit from them, in terms of your cultural norms, in terms of like your literal DNA, things like mental illness, which are some combination. And then he certainly is interested in pagan ritualism as a backdrop, and he's really, really, really interested in what it means to connect or disconnect from yourself and from another person. And in this movie, there's certainly all of that there, but the biggest thing for me was about disconnection in general from others, disconnection from community that's baked into our culture and how we operate. We're competitive, we're separate, we have all of these devices to put us together, but we're never really together and held together. He's exploring all of that within the framework of this one relationship, which was so relatable to me. The small moments of this relationship. What is abuse on one side versus another? When is it truly toxic? Is it kind of like the frog boiling in the water, which is not really the best analogy, as we know, but does it become toxic before you're aware, and then it's too late? I think all of that is explored here, and it's done, again, cinematically. There's a framing device he uses and this isn't giving anything away at all, of mirrors, where he'll stay in a wide shot and you see a character in a mirror. And I think that creates this sense of you're not quite there in your conversation. You can't quite hit the truth of each other, right? It's a fragment that you're seeing. And then eventually there's a point with this one character who's gone through a very bad trauma, and this person needs, it's too much for this person to hold on their own, and the way they're processing is the way that all of us process, which is like, frankly, to lose your shit, to talk to yourself, to, try and talk yourself into holding it together. But what this person really needed was others to bear the weight of their pain with them. And when that's offered, release happens for them. So like Ari Aster is also very interested in grief, and what it means to grieve. Very much. So all of that is there about how you need that from your partner, and most of us don't get that from our partners, and maybe it's too much to expect from one person, frankly, to hold all of our own pain. It probably is, and that's explored in this movie too. I just think it's very deep. And then added to that, I think the thing that he does that people will be the most divided on, and I'm curious your take, is he does some very, very, very specific horror tropes, of one by oneness, people being taken down. And this, again, isn't giving anything away. You can see that in the trailer. That actually felt a little like a slasher film to me.
I think that's kind of
but it was kind of fun. It was funny.
Well, and this is a very funny movie. This is a very funny movie. There are lots of moments that I thought were genuinely hilarious, and I agree with you as far as the thematic depth. That idea of exploring this relationship between two characters, and the idea of sacrifice and giving up, and how much should you give up and how much shouldn't you give up. When are you being callous? When are you being helpful? When are you not helping? The way they bounce off of each other, like that's a very one thread that is explored very deeply throughout this movie. In addition to the humor, in addition to there are other characters that have things going on, and you're also trying to figure out just what the hell is going on in general, because it is so weird, and you're like who are these people, what is there, and that's kind of being uncovered, and there's elements to that you're like that are effed up, and what, and you're dealing with that. And I think that might be a little bit of why my feelings on this movie are still evolving. Like, coming out of it, and what I can say right now is I liked it. I think that those feelings are going to evolve one way or another as it sinks in more, as I see it. Again, I think that great films often are worth revisiting, and that you shouldn't make up your mind definitively or necessarily have to after a first viewing. A lot of films get better or worse on a second viewing.
Yeah. Or you just take
different things.
Yeah. You see more.
The second time viewing the film that you didn't know about the first time can be a completely different experience and really help to sharpen that. That happened to me with Hereditary. Yeah. The first time I saw it, I really liked it. The second time I saw it, I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I liked this movie after the first viewing, but I think the thing that I'm struggling the most with is, you mentioned all of those things, the levity, the horror tropes, the relationship, exploring the relationship on top of everything else that's going on. And I think that was my biggest struggle with it, is that it was almost information overload for me in the sense that, and I think you see this a lot of times with directors in their second films, particularly after a very critically acclaimed movie coming off of one where perhaps the studio in A24 is a very filmmaker friendly studio, where that next film sometimes becomes one where a director can pour everything into it, and sometimes that's great. But for me, I wonder, and this may hold up on the second viewing, if maybe it could have used just a 10% more of a sharper focus.
Yeah, that's interesting.
There's a lot going on, and films should be complex. Not should be, but I like films that are complex and deep and meaningful and have a lot of things going on. But I wonder if one of the barriers keeping me from really flipping over this movie was that it felt a little scattered. It felt a little. It feels its length. It felt its length to me. It's about 2 hours and 20 minutes. It did feel that length to me. I forget who said it, but somebody I think once asked, how long should a movie be ideally? And the question is however long it needs to be. I don't know if this movie is as long as it needs to be, but a second viewing, who knows? That may underline those problems, or it may, in my mind, kind of fill in some gaps.
It didn't feel its length to me, though it's not quickly paced. This is a movie that it unfolds, and I think he really is kind of a master of tension. But he also, the things that I appreciate about it is, for me, it had a core that it was exploring in every aspect, right? Every piece of the movie was exploring the idea of empathy for me. And when are we truly empathic? Or compassionate to one, because empathy is a little bit of a double-edged sword. A lot of times it's paralyzing. But if you lack it entirely, or you lack compassion, or you know how to fake compassion, which many people do, it's always toying with that line, because it's immersing you in a culture that plays by different rules of what's acceptable, and what is right and what is of nature. So something that looks deeply dispassionate or wrong, and some things that are, and we would agree to that, are played with. But there's a character in this movie that it's interesting. They set up the relationship in one way, and then it seems to turn upside down, and he even does that in a shot. He gets you ready for I'm going to flip this on its head now, and you're going to see them differently, and with very, very subtle distinctions. So I thought that was really interesting, and also he's playing with us as an audience, right? We are used to, when we go to horror movies, being acclimated to certain brutalities, to almost gleefully anticipating a character that we dislike being dispatched. And, we call them kills for a reason. And he's challenging that, I think, in this movie. He's challenging the idea of empathy, cultural empathy, collective empathy, relationship, intimacy empathy, self-compassion, and us as an audience. How much of that can you extend or deny to these characters? So, to me, it did work, and it all came together and was of a piece. That said, it's weird, he gets there in a way that I can track the logic every moment, and I love what he's doing. But it is asking a lot of you.
It is, yeah, and I tracked some of that I didn't track. maybe I missed it.
this
Maybe
is
we
my
just have a different
read.
interpretation.
You
Exactly.
know,
And, I
like-
mean, and that's what I mean when I say, like, I embrace films that challenge you, and there's no definitive. There's never a moment where he sits you down and is just like, this is how you read my film.
Yeah.
Which I think is refreshing.
Yeah.
But that also does leave open room for interpretation. And yeah, like I said, it's one of those things where it's like it's not. I can't. It's not a movie where I can be like, oh yeah, go see it, because I don't know, man. It's weird. It is not for everyone.
Yeah.
It is unique. It's refreshing in that sense. It's like I just think he's a really interesting director, and there are some parts of this movie that worked for me 100%, like I thought were incredible. And the filmmaking itself, just in general, I think is really top level, top notch. It's really just, does it all come together for me? Did it gel for me into a complete picture, or one that I am at least satisfied with? That is what I'm trying to determine. I don't know yet, but I will say it is messy. It is intense. It is flawed, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and it is singular. And not a lot of movies are singular.
Yeah.
This is a singular movie. There is no movie out there like Midsommar, and there's not going to be another one that comes out this summer like it. I dig that.
Wouldn't that be weird?
That would be weird if another one like Midsommar came out. I dig that, but there's going to be plenty of people out there that it's just not their tempo, and that doesn't mean. I feel like a lot of times people look at critics, and if we say like, well, this movie may not be your tempo, that we're saying you're stupid. And I'm not saying that at all. If you came up to me and said, I went and saw Midsommar, I don't know what the hell you were talking about, how you could like that movie. I hated it. I get it. I understand it.
I would get that too.
I
yeah.
get it. It is it's tough. It's tough.
We all bring ourselves to these things, we, especially a movie like this that opens the door for that, right? So this is my read of the movie. And with that in mind, I really, really enjoyed and appreciated it. I am an old school horror fan, which means that when someone's able to bring in the tension of release of humor to horror, I appreciate that, and I think he's using those tools very, very well. Again, I think challenging the viewer about how we even watch horror movies, and how we view the characters and whether they're dispensable or disposable or not, what it means to put other people in pain. I think it's like genius, and I was very entertained also, because at any given moment, you're in this other world, he's taking you out of our safe comfort zone, of the familiar. And it's in the other thing that he does that I think is really interesting in this setting, is that it's all light. Everything is just right for the most part. It's right out there in the light, which is a way to turn things on their head with horror movies as well, where most things play out in the dark and our fear of the dark.
Yeah.
What if it was just right out there in the open and there was no apology for it? There was no apology. There was an embrace of the brutality. There was an embrace of the horror. All of that, to me, I fell in love with this movie on the first viewing. I really, really love him as a filmmaker. I will not be surprised if there are people that feel differently, and I won't argue with that. This is me. This is my read, my take. There may be different ones, but I do think if you love film, this is worth seeing, even if you hate it for a discussion like this.
I agree. This is I 100% agree. Like if you like seeing a movie that's going to lead to a bigger discussion, that's going to leave you with something to think about, this is 100% a movie that's worth seeing. And the difference for me between this movie and, say, a movie that I think it'll be received similarly to Mother, which came out a couple of years ago. The difference for me between those two movies, because a lot of people say like, well, you hated Mother, but you like this movie, and they're both weird kind of quasi-horror movies. Like, why did you like this one and did you like that one? For me, Mother was a very obvious message that was done in what I thought to be an intentionally obtuse, an intentionally overly elaborate way to say something that I didn't think was that particularly profound. I thought it was. It's like, yeah, I know what you're doing, man. You don't have to. I get it.
Yeah, we get it.
This for me was almost the opposite of that, but in a way that I enjoyed, which was like, This is also in many ways intentionally provocative, but in a way that interests me because I'm still processing what exactly this movie had to say.
Yeah.
It's intriguing to me. I don't feel like you're showing off or you're trying to impress me. I feel like Ari Aster's trying to tell me something with this movie. I don't know what it is yet exactly. Maybe I'll figure it out the next time I see it, but that intrigues me. And that's why I'm recommending it, because that's the kind of film that I engage with.
Same. I would highly recommend this for all of those reasons. Even if you walk out and, there's a period of time in a group of filmmakers that wanted you to hate their work. They wanted just to inspire a reaction, and to produce, invoke conversation and debate, and certainly that's what this movie will do. But I think I don't see it so much as and maybe that's the difference for me too with Mother, is that I see him as really just wanting to explore something that he doesn't necessarily have a definitive answer for, and that just feels very human to me. And that there's incredibly grounded relationship. We should talk about the performances, which are extraordinary, but the relationship behavior is so real and so entirely relatable that when he puts it in these heightened circumstances, you can enter that with him, because he is creating really fully fleshed human beings, particularly the lead.
Florence Pugh.
Who's
is
ridiculous.
Fantastic in this movie.
In everything. Lady Macbeth.
Yes. She, though, is really, really, really good in this movie. And between Toni Collette and Florence Pugh, if you are cast as the lead in an Ari Aster film,
get ready for us to be mad you're not getting an Oscar.
And it is not going to be easy. It is work, because both of those performances require so much from those actors, and they both did phenomenally well.
This woman too is a chameleon. I mean, if you look at this role, Lady Macbeth, and Fighting for My Family, she's just got incredible range. Yeah.
I think this could be the beginning of this movie, and then this past year, 18 months, could be the beginning of a really.
She's in Black Widow, so.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. They said offshoot.
Well, it's out there.
It's out there.
It is officially out there. We have not revealed anything.
We haven't revealed anything. Yeah. But also Jack Rayner.
Yes.
Will Poulter in a supporting role.
Oh man!
If there is a comic relief to be had in this movie, it's him.
Yeah.
He's almost the audience surrogate. But the audience surrogate in the way it's he's not you. He's the person you relate to in that annoying way, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I know that guy. I hate that guy.
Yeah.
I don't like that guy. Whoever that guy is, he's the one I almost related to the most, in the sense that it felt like everyone was united in hating that guy because everybody knows him. He's the worst of all of us.
Everybody's got a mark.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone has a mark. So I think that's part of the charm. There was a lot of I wonder if it's a Room reference, because there was a lot of high marks and high. I think her name is Danny.
Danny.
It's hi Mark, hi Danny. I just wonder if it's oh hi Danny. I wonder if it's I wish that we could have had the chance to ask. I wonder if that is a very subtly played Room reference going on, because there's some great weirdos too in this movie.
There is, and the thing is, he's not hiding from how weird the world is. I think that's sometimes a thing that filmmakers will do, is put their subjects in a very heightened weird reality, and they all just embrace the weirdness, or you know what I mean. But in this one, you get the what the
well, it does a good job of,
which is what's relieving for us, I can laugh at this because it's bananas,
and creating a group of people who treat it the same way, who you're seeing these things that are openly weird or openly horrific, and you have a group of people that are just what? The way you do it is weird.
Yeah.
We just do it out in the open. The way you do it is weird, and
which is the point, which I think is really interesting, to challenge your cultural norms are the ones that are messed up, not ours. You know, there is something to that. When you go to a very different cultural environment, you're able to see the things about your own that don't make a ton of sense.
Yeah. So you're in love with it.
I am. I'm married. I'm putting a ring on it.
I'm in like with it, but I need a second date.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's complicated. My relationship status with this Midsommar is it's complicated. But I look forward to exploring it further, armed with a little more knowledge and picking up on some things. There was one particular gag that I don't think anyone in the audience picked up on regarding a beverage that I was expecting a bigger reaction from the audience on that is laid very subtly throughout the movie that I don't think a lot of people picked up on in the screening we were in. That I'm curious. We'll talk about it after. But it's one of those things that plants these little seeds, and I'm sure there are some seeds that were planted that I did not pick up on that I will next time, and maybe that will enhance the experience. Maybe it won't. But yeah.
I need to know about the beverage. We're going to talk about the beverage.
It fascinated me, and that's refreshing enough for me for a movie to actually fascinate me and make me want to revisit it and learn more. That's rare.
Highly recommend to anybody that is a film fan, just for like the craftsmanship, but also the way he's using the tools to tell his story and to hit on the themes that are both was brilliant. What I love about him, and he's a very different filmmaker than Jordan Peele. But they pick and choose moments to be subtle and then entirely not.
Yeah, definitely.
So check it out. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Debate actively. I think this is one that we are always open to different opinions, but are entirely prepared for a variety of opinions.
For the people that kick off their July 4th holiday by going to see this movie next week when it opens wide, I don't know. Just get ready. Take a group because you're going to have something to talk about. Yeah, exactly.
Dance around the pole.
Exactly. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
all right. Well, we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one. Maybe Roth will be able to join. Maybe she won't. It's a busy summer movie season. There's so many movies to catch. And so many movies coming up this week and next week. But we'll be back soon reviewing other movies that are hitting theaters. We hope you'll join us.